This conference will now be
We'll let
recorded.
you get settled here before we start the pledge of allegiance here, Mr. Brad. Okay.
Okay.
Have a flag salute this morning.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Correction, it is this afternoon. It is not. Public comments would be the first thing we listen to, if there's any online this afternoon.
Yeah, it doesn't look like we have any public on right now.
Okay. So we'll move on. Agenda approval. Does anybody have any changes they'd like to make to the agenda today? Better get one pen here. Out here, where? Hearing none. Tina, Brad, anything from what you have here?
I don't think so.
All righty. Move on to administrative business. Let Tina take over.
Okay.
Take care of that.
First thing I have are a couple of salary sheets.
Okay, this is for the transfer station, James O'Neill, be from 2,300 to 2,773. From an EO1 to truck driver, obtain Kansas CDL. Effective 11/4/2021. Second one will be for the jail, Heidi Kitchen. Starting at 1536, effective 11/12/21, be a new corrections officer.
Do you have some, I'll pass that
Early
down
checks?
to you. I've got some early checks, yes. Total is $16,099.
Let's see if I can find it. I'll just read it right off We got a bunch of them here.
There's just two.
Am I in the wrong month again? Yeah. Here we go again. Oh, another, okay, we paid 25,000 last meeting.
That's not it.
That's not it.
Yep, keep going.
Let's go another one. You're gonna say, we're going 25,000 again?
Nope.
Go on.
There you go.
Damn.
Opportunity zone. It's opportunity zone.
MFA Oil Company?
There's that one, and then there's
Rural opportunity
Yes.
zone.
There it is.
All of
I'm
it's
sorry, I
there,
didn't see it.
yeah.
Department of
And then
Commerce, RAS, this is student loan deal for $4,417.59. General, or Road and Bridge was $11,681.41, total of $16,099.
Make a motion to approve $16,099.
Have a motion by Kent,
Second.
second down there on the end by Dave Mueller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I vote.
Okay.
Come down. Anything else?
Yes.
Nothing on the minutes?
I have a couple things after the minutes. So the next thing is the minutes of October 29.
Okay.
Motion to approve minutes on October 29th.
Anybody else have anything to correct on the minutes of October 29th? I have a motion by Jones, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Dave Mueller, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 5-0.
Abstain.
Well, you're not abstaining because you wasn't there, was you?
I wasn't here.
That's right. 4-1. One abstention with Kent.
You were actually there
Oh, was
on the
that
teleconference.
Okay, okay. Yay.
Is that a yay?
I thought it was the other one.
This one was a page.
You were thinking maybe it was like this last one.
Right.
But we haven't sent those out yet. So this is way back.
Huh?
Okay. All right. Last, I don't remember exactly which date it was, but you approved the next pay application for the EMS station. And when I was inputting that, I keep track of all those projects and the expenses and the approvals and all of that. And I noticed on there that the contract amount had increased. And so there had been no official change order submitted on that. And if you'll remember, the contract price increased because of the additional ventilation required. And then there's a change for expedited installation. And so the total change order, I asked them to go ahead and just prepare an official document for approval. So this is change order number 1 for the EMS location, and the total amount is $10,173.28.
Any comments on the change orders or anything, reason why?
Where's the expedited
Yeah.
installation?
Still haven't got the installation.
There's nothing there.
So what's expedited about it?
There's nothing there.
I haven't heard nothing.
Did show up today.
I don't think we should be paying that
Yeah.
until it
Well,
shows up.
We ordered it though.
We changed
Right.
vendors. We went to a different vendor. And canceled.
The way I understood it, it was supposed to have been there last week or the week before.
The 9th is when it was supposed to have been there.
Yeah.
It's not there.
And,
Wasn't there this morning.
I know it wasn't there the 9th, because I asked last week.
Yeah.
It wasn't there this morning either.
They're not skinning it today, so.
Mm.
I think he said it was gonna ship today on the 15th.
Mm.
Somebody said
The
last
last time
week.
I heard was the 9th. That's the last I heard about it.
How much is the expedited for?
25.
1,900 and something, do you see that, Randy?
$1,975.
To expedite it? Just to-
Well, let's see, 8% fee, added cost, include $1,828. That's gotta be the installation though, $1,828.71 excluding sales
This
tax.
is percentage.
And then the 8% fee for sales tax.
Mhm.
Total
Well,
19
8% is
8%
his fee.
Commission fee.
Yeah, it's
8%
not
fee,
sales
okay.
tax.
Yeah. So you don't see any extra cost for expediting it.
Could we maybe put the change order on hold and see if we could contact Travis for an update by the end of the meeting? Is that possible?
Sure. Travis was in and I did talk to him. He said there had been conversation and he was told to order it. So if the commission did something to say, go ahead, then I think that the change order probably needs to be processed, but I'd be glad to have Travis come over and talk to you about it if you like, so.
Yeah, it's just like everything else is running behind on delivery. And we're having the same problem. They promise they'll ship this week and then ship till a week later, if it ships.
Is it wise to be paying for something we haven't seen yet?
We do that on a lot of things.
Well, I know we do, but, you know, is that transparent? Is that being very transparent now?
This is just a change order, it's just upping the total price.
Right.
We're not paying for anything.
Yeah, this is just a change order proposal.
This is agreeing to the
Agreeing
contract
to
price.
it,
To
yeah.
pay in the end.
And same way with the vac system, we didn't order it. I mean, somebody has ordered it so that
It needs to be added to the contract amount.
Michelle's gonna call Travis, so you can ask him one of the
Then that might
questions.
just give a little more comfort.
Sure, you bet. So if you wanna table that till he's here, you know, that's fine. I just don't want to be getting, I mean, y'all approved the pay application with the extra cost on it, and I have no
Right.
documentation for it, so I wanted to follow up on it,
Good.
so.
Get your
Okay.
paperwork.
Yeah,
Yep.
this insulation was supposed to have been here by the ninth. That's what we was told. We told them since the other order was delayed, I guess that's what you'd call it. They didn't have any kind of shipping date or anything like that. So that's why we,
Said to
we
get it
need to,
by
say,
the
wait,
ninth.
go it, get it, and then this would be the change order for it. But it's the same thing as the vac system, the HVAC system. I mean, we was sent a bunch of rules. I completely disagree with the rules myself. I don't think that ever, you know, that's another time, another place that we
Okay.
meant that, but we're gonna have to have it according to the rules, inspector. We're gonna have to approve this and approve the insulation too. But like you said, Ken, I mean, I agree with you what you're saying. We don't wanna approve it that it's that way too, but we did.
Well, my only concern is we go ahead and pay it and still don't get it for another week.
Right.
Yes, that is a concern.
And we're doing an expedited. We did something to expedite it. We're not getting expedited. Why would we pay?
And I don't know if Travis is he's the one calling me about it, so whether he can, well, Cody is the person we need to talk to.
Yeah, Cody should be
Cody's the person.
on top of that, to find out where it's at.
Well, I remember the ventilation system, so I'd make a motion to approve the change order on that.
It's all together on one change
Yeah.
order,
Yeah, the whole
so
thing.
maybe
Yeah.
we should table the whole
Okay.
thing and then, if you, once you have the conversations you wanna have, then you can ask for an amended one, or, I
I
don't know.
think that's appropriate.
Okay, I'll send it back to you.
Okay. So, beside, do you still want Travis to come over? Okay. The other thing that I didn't have on our little list of administrative items, but that we're a little bit behind on if we want to proceed with something this year, is the employee Christmas party. Generally, we kind of already have that going by now, so I didn't know. The girls were talking about maybe trying to do something similar to what we did last year, but different. So, but I didn't know if you all had specific ideas or
Similar-
thoughts of how you
similar
want
to different. I
want it to be.
think
so.
last year worked pretty well.
Yeah, it was a fantastic deal, what they did last year. I mean, I think everybody enjoyed it. If you could come up with something, whatever you wanna do, this, you know, there's that, and then, with this being said,
I think we still
Sorry.
have several food trailers around.
I would also like to see if we have this money, the ARP money, I'd like to see us maybe get it on the agenda to see if we can work out some many bonuses for working for the employees that work through COVID. Get that on the agenda for some time in the near future, so we can work on it. If we have to have a special meeting on it, well, so be it. if that's okay with the
Yeah, but
commission.
I think we ought to talk about it on the 22nd, because we're out of
Okay.
time.
Yeah.
So yes, go ahead on planning something for a Christmas party.
Similar
Yeah.
but different.
Similar but different.
Similar but different.
All
That's-
right.
That was a nice way to put it.
That was nice, because it involved all the families too.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Just not the
Mhm.
individuals.
And you're okay with doing that again? So-
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I have for the moment.
All right.
You did last year.
Salary
She was
sheets
like a
was done.
scavenger.
We have the
So
next one. is-
end up out to leave with the food trucks.
She's sitting here in the crowd
But it's gotta be-
today. Sharon?
Good afternoon.
Amen.
All right, as usual, I have some papers to pass around here for you. Please take one.
Actually, a paperclip.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This one's in the back.
We don't do well if they're not paperclip.
Understand. And you received most of this in your packet
Yes.
last
Okay.
week.
Yeah,
It's kind
we
of a-
haven't all of them.
Yeah. Okay, so the first item that I have for the board is the planning commission made a recommendation for some text amendments that have to do with shipping containers and where those are allowed and where they're prohibited and where they require a special exception through the zoning board. It was kind of a minor text amendment, but the purpose of the amendment is that, basically what it changed is that one shipping container could be approved in the suburban residential district, and it could allow for one to be approved through a special exception in the village district and residential one districts.
This is more like pods, so people can use the pods to move, or is this a permanent shipping container?
It'd be a permanent shipping container, just used as like a storage shed.
Okay.
Right now, they're allowed in the ag district and they're allowed in ag and rural residential, and they're prohibited in all other districts. But we have some tracts of land that are just under 10 acres, and the people may or may not live on that tract of land, but they keep their mower and maintenance equipment and things.
So this
They-
allows for them to take advantage of.
Yes, that's right. It would allow for those larger acreage tracts to be able to apply for a building permit where they were otherwise completely prohibited.
Okay.
And then in the village district, which would be like Alney, Antelope, those smaller
Unincorporated.
communities. Some of those actually have larger tracts, and the neighbors may not mind someone having a shipping container there, but it would have to go through the Board of Zoning Appeals to approve one for those districts, because they are smaller lots and closer together. So
Does it put any restrictions on, like, seeing some pretty fancy houses being made out of them? Does it restrict that, or is it just storage?
this is specific to an accessory structure,
Okay.
so it would be not the primary residence.
But what happens if somebody comes in and does that? Because you see it on TV. I mean, they're doing it every day on TV.
Just down on Central, they've got a pretty nice building actually made. It's got a nice deck and everything built on
They
it.
use them for apartment complexes, stack them up.
But you're just doing one container here, you're not doing multiple containers.
Right, these specific text amendments are based around which zoning districts they're allowed in by building permit, and which ones they're prohibited in, and which ones take a special exception. So, I see what you're asking.
Yeah, I mean, somebody brings 5 of them in and says, I'm gonna make my house out of it.
Right.
I just see it on TV. Most of it's off the grid, but the grid stuff gets back to us sometimes.
Mm-hmm. We don't enforce building code out in the county, so we can't necessarily
Yeah. They could do that.
eliminate certain structures based on what
Well-
they look like or what they're made out of. We do have a manufactured home code that may be able to address that. It's kind of a gray area.
Yeah, I was gonna say that they usually have to be assembled in some sort.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's been a while since I looked at that, but I thought that that was also starting from the premise that it's truly an accessory structure, and if so, it's not, it's a non-residential to begin with.
Yeah, so all this is accessory.
These text amendments would be strictly for an accessory structure.
Okay.
Making it less restrictive, so.
Making it less restrictive?
It's allowing allowances for them.
It, as these recommendations are written, it would allow someone to apply for a building permit for one shipping container on a suburban residential district property. And they could apply for one through a special exception public hearing process in R1 in Village District.
And
I think it's well thought out, at least the way I read it.
And it serves kind of as a self-evident filter, because it's an accessory structure and they have to come in and do this anyway. If they came in and said, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and throw a couch in there, and we plan on living out there 3 months out of the year, that can be addressed. That means it's not consistent with the code at this point. It's storage and accessory uses, which we do define 3 or 4 places in the code as it currently exists.
modern times, I guess. And I can understand people bring bunches in, things like that, and semi-trailers. I mean, you know, they bring them in and just start stacking them in the yards, stuff like that. I think that's probably the purpose of this, is what that is.
And it makes sense also that a person could use one as storage, put their mower and weed eater, you know, we want people to keep their properties up. So we want them to have a way to keep those items secured on site so they can do the maintenance that's needed.
Yeah. I see there's one right outside of Marion, there's one right outside of Peabody's doing just the exact thing that you're talking about, keeping their lawnmowers and keeping their stuff there.
Yep.
Pretty cost efficient way of storing things.
Yeah, it was.
Well, yeah, it's probably going up.
Connex is went from $2,000 a piece to $20,000 a piece. Supply, so you may not see a
Yeah,
bunch.
I'm not
You may
sure
not see a
how
lot
the
of them anyway.
Cost affects this now, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so keep going.
Well, we need action on that.
Yeah.
I would move we approve the proposed amendments regarding shipping containers as an accessory structure.
Second.
Have a motion by Dave, second by Jonah to approve this amendment. Is there any numbers on it or anything, or just text?
Well, we'll do, I think if you could just go ahead and do this motion, and then there's a resolution you'll need to adopt,
Yeah.
which is right here.
Okay. All righty.
And I had, so it was Jonah on the second? I thought it was Ken. Okay, sorry, I wrote it down wrong.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, aye.
Okay, these text
one.
amendments, sorry,
It's all right.
these text amendments will become effective after the resolution is published. And then I'll get a new copy of each of those zoning section regulations for you to replace in your notebooks.
Okay.
Do you wanna let Travis finish?
Well, we'll get this resolution here, then we'll get Travis.
Okay.
Resolution number 2021-23, approving text amendments to the zoning regulations of what we just, for Marion County, Kansas. Do we need a motion on that too, right?
Yes. to adopt the resolution.
I'd make that motion to adopt resolution number 2021-23.
Second.
Kent, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I guess I shouldn't make a motion. Is that opposed?
Doesn't matter.
You can
You
still
always
vote
oppose
against
it.
it.
You can-
Oh, yeah.
You're just it's up to a head.
I'm still opposed, aye, 4-1.
You, yeah, in fact, it's a way of doing things. Sometimes
Yeah.
when you can't get something to strike up or down, you make the motion so they have to.
Yeah.
Move forward.
True. Okay, now there's something before we get this to passing around here. I do have a note from, pink note on this right here. Does Cody know when the installation will arrive? And on the back side it says it's here. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. You sweating scouts over? Okay. All righty. So the installation is here.
Awesome.
That's a good deal.
That is good.
Not this morning, anyway. Beautiful day for it.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming over and letting us know.
Yeah, that.
Is that all you needed?
That's all.
Oh.
We just needed to make sure we
Well,
were
nothing like
approving
getting
it.
called the principal's office.
Could have just had it sit
It
at.
expedited
fine.
price. If it wasn't expedited.
Right, correct. It's here.
So
So,
where's it at?
I believe it's at
Cody's
for the shop.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't on
We
the
were
ground.
looking for it on site.
Yeah, I did not see it on site either, but he did tell me last week it had arrived. I talked to him Wednesday or Thursday last week. So,
Oh,
yeah, it's on site, or it's in
It's
his
here.
possession.
it's in his possession, okay.
Yeah.
And,
Well, we were just talking about the change order anyway, not paying for it yet. but-
Yeah, no, it has arrived.
Thank you.
Yep.
and I talked to Eldon last week and he said he had to finish up a couple things before he can
Get
get
back.
back on it.
Okay.
He didn't tell me how long. So I asked him.
Nice weather for it.
Ripple effect.
Yeah.
When you pull off of a job, I mean, you can't expect him to jump right back on it.
All right.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Travis.
All right,
Yep.
thank you, guys.
Is it
Thanks, Sharon.
appropriate to act on the change order now?
I think so.
I move to approve the change order in the amount of $10,173.28.
Have a motion by Dave Mueller to approve the change order for.
I'll second it.
Second by Dave Crowfoot. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.
Okay, and then, I passed the change order to you, attached to that pink note, and I need your signature on the back page.
All right. So I'll change the note taken off.
I don't care.
Entertainment.
That's quick. Yeah, no problem.
Rather do that than have them go through the whole session.
I didn't know what it's for. Just needed to answer one question. And it was a good answer.
Good.
November 15th.
15th, that's right. Good thing it's here now. Now we move on, get that building covered up maybe before the next weather. Okay, Sharon, go ahead.
Okay. And also, to backtrack a little bit, the newer version of the regulations that I send to you will also have the changes that were made pertaining to feedlots and solar rigs. I was kind of waiting on this
Sure.
to do it all at once.
Okay.
Right.
Nice.
Okay, so the next item, there was one more C&D reduction plan application that was approved. This will be the fourth application. And I didn't put this in your copies.
It's in the.
Yeah, it was in the
It's in the
packet.
Yep.
Yep.
So it was 18.85 tons and $695.75 were forgiven. So that brings our 2021 totals up to 62.41 tons and a total of $2,220.35 forgiven for the year.
Cool.
And that was 4 total applications.
There'll be one more for this year.
One more?
Yep,
Okay,
yep. So
okay,
we'll hopefully get it taken care of shortly.
sounds good.
least that I know of, will be one there.
Right. I know of several that would be great if they could take advantage of this.
Yeah, I'd like to see them all used for that, what you're thinking about, yes, very true. What
Okay.
else?
All right, so I also have an update from Expedition Wind. Just some highlights. The project had secured one-year extensions on 5 construction permits earlier this year. Those 5 sites will need to have turbine construction commenced by July 15th of 2022. They're working with their construction and turbine procurement team to finalize a construction start date and commercial operation date. They're hoping that things start moving along in the spring of 2022. They have also began communication with Road and Bridge regarding the pre-construction road inventory. And they also continue environmental and grassland studies to determine the best practices for construction and operations for the resources present in Marion County. And down on that sheet of paper that you have in your packet, if there are any questions, please contact DJ Worth with Orsted. His name and phone number and email address are there. And you can also watch the Expedition Wind webpage and Orsted's Facebook page for updates.
Okay. There was some dates that had to be met. Are they aware of all the dates that's met that you? Okay.
So far, they have met all of those dates. They came into the project almost at the 2-year date from when that development plan and that last CUP was approved in 2019. And their team very quickly picked up where NRS left off,
Okay.
and they were able to get some documents filed with the Register of Deeds. They've been working on permitting. They know that they have to meet that July of 2022 deadline for those, specifically those 5 turbine sites that they have permits for. And then there's also like 90 days prior to the notice to proceed date, they have to have that road working group up and running. They also have to have some securities and things met with the county. I believe it's prior to construction. So before they can construct anything, they have to have those bonds and securities that they're responsible for taken care of with the county.
So they're gonna be busy in December and January then.
I think it will get very busy.
I'm glad you added those bullet points back to them.
Mm-hmm. And there's a checklist I can email to you if you'd like, and it has everything that needs to happen before they can construct.
Okay.
If you'd like to have that, I'll get that sent to you.
Just, I think the board needs to look at it all, so this thing's been on, and apparently it's gonna be on now, and I think we're all interested in seeing that they respectively meet the dates that's there.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
They've been good about inquiring.
good.
They've been very, moving with deliberate haste, I guess that's on most of that stuff, and they're well aware, because we had that long conference, and we're double checking several things, and Sharon did a good job of explaining to them, well, there's only so far we can go and so many exceptions we can give, so I think they're pretty apprised at this point.
Good. Is there any recommendations from you that you would like for us, something off the wall that's not in the book that you would like help with? Is there, or Brad or anything here that we want this one to go just as smooth as others have went and stuff, and so I'm just asking. That's all I'm doing. Just asking for anything that you might think you might need help with or something like that.
I appreciate that, and I'll definitely think about that. Maybe I can get back with you if
Okay.
that's okay.
Yeah, yeah, fine.
I do know that the Article 27, the WEX regulations that were more recently amended, I can't remember which month we did that now.
Right.
It may have been December of 2020.
It was last year, I believe.
Right. So we went through and the planning commission listened to some concerns that I had with the regulations pairing up nicely with the way that whole process goes. So everything from when the CUP is obtained all the way through that permitting process. So they worked out some kinks in the regulations, and I think that will help solidify some things and make that work more efficiently.
Well,
We need to start thinking about that, the roads management working group though, pretty soon.
okay.
How that's going, who's going to be part of that, how it's gonna work, that's what I think. Probably by the first of the year, at the latest.
I agree with that.
Yes, I did push pretty hard on them to start working soon on developing that road group. I think that's important. And I know they did have some preliminary contact with our road and bridge department about, what work would be done during that, well, we call it pre-construction road inventory. I think their wording is just a little bit, their road transportation survey to evaluate transportation routes was their wording for it. So I know those conversations have preliminarily been started.
Establishing their baseline in terms of some of the areas that are really need to be addressed, irrespective of whether they were coming in or not, but just to get an idea of where their responsibility begins and ends. They are better about it than the earlier. We didn't have quite as the level of record keeping that we'll probably have in this instance. Part of that's a learning experience for us too. The other one that I would mention that's on my list, and Sharon will get to deal with me on it first, but giving her some significantly greater tools and teeth on some of these things where we have compliance issues in the county, and up to now, we don't have the same ability that municipalities have to do some things, enforce some things. I've kind of gone through that in a broad-based strokes approach. I want to sit down with her and go back over some of those and see what's useful and what's not, and then bring that to you. There would be resolution changes we'd have to make.
This is not in relationship to wind farm,
No.
this is in relationship to just general.
Yeah, just based upon your question, I thought,
Okay.
Unrelated but related.
Okay.
That needs to happen, because right now, it's difficult for them, quite frankly, for me too, at a certain point when we go, well, they aren't doing it. We can say please, but that's about the extent of it at times, and that is not gonna get it done, so.
Okay.
Randy,
Yes.
on that road thing, I went to that meeting on October 28th. They said they had a real good meeting with Bryce.
Okay.
And I know Bryce has talked, I've visited with him about some different ideas.
Okay.
He's thinking real hard about it.
Good.
How to do it correctly.
Good.
And they said they were impressed with the meeting they had with the county, so.
Good. Good.
Information.
Okay. Cool. Anything else, Sharon?
Are there any other questions about this update?
It's good.
Okay. The next item I have is to bring to your attention that there will be some vacancies on the planning commission board. And I know it's getting harder and harder to find volunteers for this. For your convenience, I've included with your contact list an application, so a little bit of homework there to hand that out to someone that you think might be a good.
December 31st is the end of it.
Right, our last planning commission meeting will be December 2nd this year, so that will be the last time that this board meets with these folks on it. The beginning of the year in January, a lot of times we'll have that planning commission dinner, so they come back for that. But then we would be starting with an all-new board in January.
So how long is their tour?
3 years. With the ability to be appointed for three-year terms.
So what is the process for, I've got my candidate, if I bring it next week, if the board approves it, would they be eligible to sit at the December 2nd meeting?
Is there an open seat?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, so in District 2,
Yes.
we have a position that needs to be filled through the end of 2022.
That's how long that one is.
Yeah, it's an unfilled term. So it'd be finishing out the term.
Right, it would be finishing that term. So, yes, and the way I understand it, with the way the bylaws were revised, the commissioner of that district is able to appoint their representative. And I don't know that is it a vote? I don't think it's a vote. I think it's just an appointment by that commission.
It's up to Dave.
Well, I'd still present.
We have
it
no
to the
say.
commission.
I think we did vote.
We voted on it
To
anyway.
ratify
but
it
they
or
brought-
something,
Ratify.
because then it's in the minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We
It
voted
needs to be.
With respect that that's who the commissioner wants.
Yeah.
and we had to vote on it at large anyway, so.
Yeah, the at-large position would have to be voted on.
Okay. Hopefully next week.
Great, thank you.
And I guess if you're not required to vote, and then
Yes.
you don't want to, just to
Yes.
bring it through the meeting is good,
And
because
announce
then
it.
we have it for the minutes and everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. We could have that person there by December 2nd.
I would like to have that position.
Could have a quorum though, isn't it?
Yes, and that's the hard part. We have, if we have too many open seats, it's hard to make a quorum.
Quorum.
And then we can't take action, or the board can't take action unless there's a quorum there. We do have one item slated for a public hearing at that December 2nd meeting, so it'll be important that we have a quorum.
Right.
And do you have a list of people who'd like to be on it?
Well, that's not something we've never done, is open that up to the public and just ask the public to turn an application in.
It has been mentioned in meetings, it's an open meeting here in the commission room. I always encourage our seated planning commission to think of people that
Yeah, that would like to
are in
be
their
on, yeah.
districts that would be good at that.
At one time, I asked before I was thinking about commissioner job, and everything was filled at that time. And so, but I did ask a planning board member, and he said at that time, there's no opening, so. But I did find out how it was appointed at that time. It's been quite a few years ago. But anyway, I don't know how many people ask would you ever ask Dave while he was on the planning board by another person how they could get on the board?
No, I was never approached by someone that wanted on the board.
Yeah, that's-
I approached a number of people about getting on.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
But it's not very
There's
often.
people out there very qualified and interested.
Yes.
Just need to be found and asked. And they do a fine job.
I've been very pleased with that board. It's diversified in all different ways, and they really bring together a great board.
And they have good leadership.
Yes, they do
Thank
have
you.
good leadership. Well,
Hey, you're already trying to deflect it. They have a good department head to work with.
Thank you, David, I appreciate that.
That makes being on the board a lot easier.
I try to help in any way I can. I'm not a voting member.
Yep.
I don't have any say in the decisions, but anything that they need, I try to help them.
Yep.
You also need to remember that just because they live in a town, they're not exempt.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's very true.
I mean, historically, this board has been rural. I mean, basically, all but one still is. Well, I'm not sure about Kathy. No, she lives in the country.
She's okay.
Yeah.
Really?
But that
Yeah.
doesn't,
I
that
think they're
doesn't
just
rule out
built to-
a qualified person.
Right.
I'll have to look at the bylaws again. You think I have these memorized? But I think it's 1 or 2 members of the board can reside in town.
Right. I was thinking it's more than one, but
Probably. Because I think we have 2 right now, currently.
because for one thing, you're getting more and more agriculture guys that live in town,
Right.
Mhm.
but they farm,
Yes.
or they're in livestock, cattle.
Mhm.
Sure.
Okay,
Alright.
so. One other item that's in your packet here that I didn't include in the email packet, the 2021 new residences report. I think there are 3 more that have been permitted since my last update. So there has been a lot of activity. We've had a lot of building permits applied for recently. It seems like things are starting to increase again after a lull caused by COVID, I assume. Prices definitely have taken a toll on building in the county, but I'm starting to see it come back up. Just for reference, in 2019, we had 11 new residence permits. 2020, we had 17, and this far in 2021, we've had 17. So we're back up neck and neck with last year.
Cool. Good deal.
This is real helpful, thank you.
Good,
I like
thanks.
that.
It's nice to see where they're at
Mhm.
in your individual districts, so.
And Sharon, just go over real quick, like, I mean, I think I know, but anyway, just like to hear your response when somebody comes in and lives on the off-road, how do you handle that? I'm saying the road that's not developed, dirt road, and they wanna build a new house out in that. Is there any special extra given that you take when you go through that person's, what they're gonna have to do?
Yes, so there's another sheet to if it's a primary zoning permit, which would be for a home, there's an extra sheet in that application, and it's a request for like a culvert or road upgrades. And before we sign off on a permit, that sheet gets sent to Road and Bridge, and then Road and Bridge typically works with that person to decide what they need and expenses. And generally, the county will provide a culvert, but if they want road upgrades, I believe the resident or the landowner has to pay for that first rocking of that portion of road, and then the county maintains it after that. But that fee is generally paid prior to us permitting a house.
Okay.
And I know there's been some discrepancy in that process. And I think the reasoning is that in order to build the house, some roads have to be upgraded to even be able to get heavy equipment down there.
Yes.
So that's a communication between the road and bridge supervisor or engineer
Okay.
and my department typically.
And this person John Doe just walked in, and John Doe says, I wanna build a 1 3/4 off Benny Rock Road. Is there anything on that permit that says that you must do any more than just what you just said? Or, and this is where I'm asking the commission, where do we wanna be involved in something to this effect? Or do you just leave it at what you just heard? If somebody wants to build 1 1/4, 1.5 miles away from that Rock Road, I mean,
They're agreeing to all the terms and conditions of it.
but what you just heard, that if the road work is upgraded, they pay for the rock on it the first time, then that's our road forever. So that's why I'm asking if there's any commission that has any further input here, because of rock costs, because of maintenance costs.
Well, once the house is built, they're paying property tax.
And you can't stop somebody from building, can you?
No, but you can apply the conditions for that road. And yes, Dave, I agree, the house tax is being there, but you got school board, you got everything else comes out of that tax, and I don't think there's a big proportion out of there enough to pay for the road, to maintain a 1.5 mile road.
Well, they're gonna have to pay for the upfront cost.
Yeah.
And that's gonna turn on, they're gonna have to pay upfront cost. If it's 1.25 miles from a gravel road, they're also gonna be paying for a water extension, most likely. And that's gonna cost every bit as much, if not more, than the road.
Yeah.
And it depends on which electric company they're on. Some of those now are, the homeowner pays the entire cost of the electric.
Yeah.
extension.
I would say
Now you're talking-
anybody that's considering that's gonna have to have pretty deep pockets.
Yeah, you're almost up to 50,000 just.
No
on
doubt, I know,
water.
I've been down it, I've got.
But I agree with the concern.
Yeah. I'm just
But there's
concerned.
also some other factors going into that, and it comes back to, okay, what is our focus as a county? Do we want no new additional people in our county? Or do we want to allow some new residences within our county?
I didn't quite go that far, I just
So
said
the
1.5
road's,
miles.
the road's
I
cheap
know.
to stay.
But most likely you will see a lot of half miles. I can reasonably see that.
Yeah.
But if someone's gonna do 1.5 miles, that's gonna be pretty rare.
We see a lot of quarter mile.
Sure.
You know, just to get them to the,
Most of them will
Intersection.
wanna do that, just to
Yes.
cut down on that.
Yes.
But there has been them ones that wants to develop a cabin with living spots back in the spot.
That's not a primary residence.
Well, I mean,
if it's
Structure.
permitted as a residence.
Okay, it is.
Yeah, if it has
Yeah.
living quarters
And no mailing address. Well, I guess
They-
it still have a 911 address.
Yeah, they get a
Right,
911
right, right.
address.
Regardless of whether they live there or not. That's true.
and so I just
Okay.
caution you, you may see that, and, I mean,
Mhm.
that's,
They still pay property tax.
Yeah, and
Even-
and that's not insignificant if they're building a new home.
Even if they build a barn dominium.
Barn dominium.
Those things are now treated like normal square footage.
Or a shouse.
Yeah.
I've
A shouse.
heard it
Same
called
thing.
shouse.
Same
Yeah.
thing, yeah.
Yep.
Barn dominium and shouses.
Looked up a material list on a barn dominium, it was $179,000.
Yep, they are
Yeah,
not
it's
inexpensive.
It's not a much of a cheap.
Unless you needed a shed anyway.
yeah.
I mean, I guess if you're asking if, when people come in to apply for a permit, they know it's not a right, like a given right to have a road upgrade because they wanna build a new house somewhere off the beaten path.
Mhm.
You know, that's just part of their planning process and something that they have to plan and budget for.
Well, what I did want to see is that we give them permission from, let's go another 1/2 mile, 2 miles. And then it comes to the commission, oh, wow, we weren't told about this. That's why I'm asking if there's any special contacts that comes in when you get an extraordinary condition somehow.
Right.
Whether it be a 1.5 mile, 2 miles road or something to that, so. Thank you for catching us up there.
I don't think there's anything that would preclude someone from building on a property that is that far out. I don't know that I have the ability to deny
It's your
an
property.
application
Yeah.
based on that, but,
You could put a
if-
generator out to make electricity.
Well,
You would-
yeah, you could.
solar panels off grid.
Yeah, solar
It's all-
panel.
I mean, our wheelhouse is private wastewater systems, private water supply, and the structure itself. And I typically have, anything that has to do with the roads or culverts gets sent to Road and Bridge.
Just thank you for a refresher session, is all it was.
What about
I
drilling a
appreciate it.
well?
Yeah.
You know, you,
Yeah, so.
you have to go for you to drill a well.
Right, yeah, so wells require a permit also, and they get,
Yeah.
the state has a database that those get entered into also, and they have to meet certain separation distances and.
Anything that could fall under the EPA.
Yeah.
Pretty
Right.
much.
So you
Right.
could set up living, you know, solar.
Yeah.
We don't have anything on public power. I honestly haven't looked, that's why I'm asking more than anything.
As far as like solar,
No, yeah, as far as on kind of the off-grid approach to that element of it, that they have to be hooked to the power grid, I don't know that, I don't know.
we do have So the new solar regulations address that somewhat and define the division between a utility scale solar and a private use scale. So we can permit solar infrastructure as an accessory structure.
Standalone, yeah.
Yeah,
Has to exceed a certain KW.
Mhm.
right.
The solar does.
Yeah, you don't wanna be messing with the little guy.
Yeah.
Right. And there again, we don't enforce building code, so we just,
Yeah, that's another one on the list in terms of
Sedgwick
what
County.
you want to consider, how far we want to go. Most of the counties that have planning and zoning countywide have gone in that direction. And also the public power grid, you will hook up or at least have access. But that's
Yeah.
entirely, as a policy matter, up to you guys.
Why would we want to require that?
I don't know. I mean, I haven't thought that through, to be candid. I mean, there's,
Building code wise, I went off to power, but building code wise, we got the bait shop deal out here, right? We're trying to think it's our fault for their infrastructure not being proper, right? Well, if they had proper inspections, permits, they would have never had a house to buy that wasn't code compliant.
But that comes back from the 60s and 70s. I mean, you
But you
can't-
gotta start somewhere.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you keep turning over houses
Boy, we're
that are
chasing
never.
this squirrel way down the road.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sharon.
I mean, that comes with, each side of that argument comes with its own
Oh, yeah.
set
Yes.
of positives and negatives. I mean, we have a lot of people in Marion County who, it's more cost efficient to do things themselves as opposed to hiring contractors.
Most of the building codes though don't disallow the homeowner from working on something. Most of them don't, especially in Kansas. So it's more of, if you hire somebody, that they are an accredited person, that they are, and that you yourself, if you're working on it, you're doing things up to a par.
Mhm.
It isn't saying that you have to use a contractor.
And then it also would require the county to fill another position for a code enforcement officer and,
Yeah.
I mean, that, and a building inspector.
but it's all interrelated. We end up, part of the question that Ken was asking, although I'm not sure it's as compelling with putting someone on a public power grid, but if we don't have those inspections, we still have a duty in terms of we provide emergency medical, we provide fire protection, and if somebody goes out and jerry-rigs something up and it explodes and you've got a fire that spreads through an entire section, you know, and impacts others, it's
Right.
that kind of thing that we get into about how far do we regulate for safety, and health, safety, welfare. That's what it always comes back to. I don't know. There's a point at which you have to decide how far you want to go.
I think we just heard how average of 17 to 18 houses a year,
Mhm.
new structures. And I think that out of 17 or 18 new structures, I don't know what the ratio would be, but most of them has qualified people building them. Except for out here at County Lake one time, we had a person, but
Most,
that was the other example. But, yeah, most of them, how did we get here? How did we get here?
That squirrel is
Dave Mueller.
You asked the question.
You ever heard of homestead rescue?
Sharon, never come in and there's a half-hour empty slot behind you.
even
Because
the,
it all got used up.
even in towns though, there is, building inspector will come in and catch things and just, yeah, it holds things to a higher standard.
Well, perfect example we have right now is how you want to read the rules. I mean, that's what we got forced here. We got pages in, 2 pages in there, how you read those rules. There's not a rule in there that says that ambulance station is a public parking garage. And
It comes down to your.
how you enforce it,
HJ.
how you want to enforce it, how you want to read them. And that's the part that really I don't mind basic rules and following that, and a good inspector that will allow, and it will help you if you have a problem, but it's how you.
There's politics.
And that's
So
bottom
let's
line.
keep that out of it.
You know, we run into that with the real estate inspections too, because when we inspect wastewater systems and wells, if they don't meet the minimum standards that are set out by the state and by our environmental code, then I have to fail it. Well, then the person that was wanting to buy the home, if their loan is through certain agencies or certain insurance companies, they aren't approved for the loan.
Right.
And then the sale falls through and it's, I always get nice phone calls, emails,
That well deal is, a lot of houses out in the country would not pass the
right?
current rules and stuff, yeah.
I look at it, I guess in a different light. If they gotta be, if they get approved for it, now all of a sudden they become payment poor, and then they get hit up and they have to do improvements, they can no longer afford it.
What needs to be done up front.
Yep.
You're exactly right. And the days of draining the sewer into the road ditch
Yeah.
are past.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. They're changing hands. It's gonna be-
Sharon hadn't
Right.
found all those yet.
Oh,
No.
my goodness.
Crick works
It's a nightmare.
They are, they're correct. So I think we've done far enough down that path. Thank you,
All
Sharon.
right, thank you.
Thanks, Sharon.
Thank you, Sharon, appreciate it.
You're
Good-
welcome.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Be thinking on that question that I asked you.
Okay.
We want everything to work good.
Drink to
The road committee and stuff like that, we want it to all
Sure.
go
Every time
smoothly.
the flood you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Flood button.
All right, it is now time at 1:30 on my agenda for county councilors' time.
Unless Road and Bridge, which is ahead of us, is at 1 o'clock. We're just a little behind.
I think he's not gonna be here.
I don't-
Okay.
That's what I said.
How do you know that?
Have you heard anything, Tina?
Nothing else.
Okay, nothing else, no. Unless something comes up, let's move to county council and keep going.
Okay, the two items on there that had previously been distributed, your land bank bylaw approval, and those had been distributed several times previously. I went in and sent them to everyone again this morning, just so you have them on your computer currently. And then the tax sale policy had been, the general text had been previously submitted to you, and I put that into a policy format, also for your review as to, from the previous, what I did was highlight the portion that had been previously distributed to you, so it would be easy to determine I haven't changed anything from what you'd previously seen. Same with the bylaws. So, if you wish to take action on those today, I know that Commissioner Mueller had asked about putting it on this agenda, and so Tina had put those on there. They're ready as far as I'm concerned.
Yes. Would we need to recess and then reconvene? to approve the
No, not
bylaws?
necessarily, well,
The bylaws are approved by
Yes.
the new board?
yes, yeah.
But don't you?
We'd have to call the meeting, in a case like that, too.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna ask. Wouldn't you have to have?
Organizational meeting,
And
This-
have to be public notice?
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, so it would have to be,
Next
we're scheduling the first Monday of each month, is that right?
Yeah, and again, that's whatever you'd like to do, but I was trying to keep it
Yep.
consistent with your.
So should we just schedule it for the first Monday in December?
Yeah,
I'm just trying to keep the
Yeah,
ball rolling.
yep, I agree.
I think so.
Not that I'm pushing, but I'm pushing.
Then a time slot in the agenda to recess.
Well,
Or at the end.
okay.
We
Well, this
can do
says
it.
11:30.
Well, I was
I
gonna
mean,
say,
this
we don't-
document says 11:30 on
We
the
can do
first
it before
Monday.
if you'd prefer.
So I think that you may want to use some of this time to go through this document, make sure it's the
If
way
there
you
isn't
want
anything
it.
else that you want to change.
Because it does say also in here that you will have at least 9 regular meetings. And if I think that one time you had said you may not want to meet that often.
Yeah, quarterly, I thought.
But, and then it
However.
says they would be, held the first Monday of the month at 11:30. So I don't know if you want to change any of that or if you're
I
good
don't-
with this.
Yeah, I don't see where we're gonna be handling bunches of properties. I would think quarterly or bi-monthly
I
would
agree
be
with
plenty.
quarterly is fine. Minimum of quarterly.
Why don't we put a minimum of 3 meetings a year, and we can always have them.
I was gonna say, where's the special meeting, how's the special meeting called?
Section
Here it
4.
is, section 4, yeah.
Chairman go.
Yeah.
Just in case you want the hard copy again.
Anybody need a hard copy?
I gave them all.
Oh,
you got it.
That's what I thought, we got it, yeah.
Should-
I didn't, did you send another email after that? I didn't do that one because I wasn't, I
Yeah,
didn't
it's
see
all
it.
the same, so I just did it in case everybody was looking at a computer.
If you printed that, then they probably would use that.
Yeah. And then the work session meeting, what would be going on in the work session to review?
Sometimes you'll do that as a policy matter. If you're looking at something where you've been presented with a number of properties that people are saying, you know what, I want to get rid of it, I don't want to mess with it anymore. But it may, you don't have to take properties in the land bank. So
Our
there
bylaws say that.
Right.
Okay.
You know, and it's also statutory. That is discretionary with you. This is not, just because you create this vessel, doesn't mean that everything gets poured into it that somebody might want to get rid of. It's your call whether you choose to accept, and each time I've got a resolution that I have you pass that says we agree by majority vote to take this one. And because there are instances where, let's face it, you're picking up something that has a lot of cost to it to get it rehabilitated to a point of reuse, part of our purpose, but also there are instances where some of that kind of stuff, it becomes a question.
Is there anything in there where we need to address, you know, like you said, somebody brings in properties to us that have huge environmental issues? I mean, would it be better if we just flat stated we will not accept properties with environmental issues?
You can do that, but this leaves you the complete flexibility on a case-by-case basis, as they're currently written, to say, bring it to us, we'll look at it, but we have no obligation, just because it's in the county and just because you want to give it to us, that we have to take it.
Right, I'd rather keep the option open.
So first Monday of each quarter at 11:30, sticking with 11:30?
I'd agree with quarterlies and time.
Noon?
I agree.
11 o'clock, 11:30,
12:15?
Oh, we go have a work session before for some other issue, then meet at 11:30, eat lunch, and have a regular meeting.
Okay.
It's quarterly.
Okay, quarterly at 11:30.
And is that work?
I don't really care.
And do you want me to outline it? I mean, obviously quarterly can mean January, then 3 months, or,
Yeah.
you know, how do you want to set a specific month, or just say that it we need a minimum, well, we need
quarterly
a
from
little
the
something.
commencement of the,
Hell,
from the ratification of the bylaws?
Well, it's just easier if you, for me, quarterly is January and 3 months, 3 months. 3
Yeah,
months.
yeah.
That'd be easier for us to keep
In
track
the
of
regular
schedule.
quarters of the year.
But you could meet January or February in that quarter.
you could call a special meeting.
But just for
The one is a
resuming,
regular meeting and the other one would be a special.
No, I didn't meet twice. You don't have to meet the first,
You can always
First month
say
of
that
each
you're gonna
quarter.
move it, that's just
Yeah.
like you do this.
Yeah, you can just
but you're gonna
restate.
meet sometime in that quarter.
You should, yes.
Tina's got a thought.
Or you wouldn't have
No,
a
I'm just-
specific date then?
She's seeing a ripple effect that we're not seeing.
No, I was just saying, I think what they were talking about was setting it specifically for the first Monday of every quarter.
Okay.
That's what I heard them say.
then
And it
if
would be
there-
preferable to do that as far as I'm concerned, because you can move things. Just
Okay.
want to have something that we move from.
Right.
And you've got those noted in your bylaws so that you at least have that institutionalized.
And if there's no business,
There for 30 seconds. if you can do
well, that's what
Well,
I'm
you can
wondering.
move it. If your
January,
business
April,
was
July,
jumping.
October.
Huh?
January, April, July, October, first Monday, 11:30.
Okay. But I'm just saying, if we see that there's no business on there and nobody, that there's no need to attend, what would we?
So at the meeting,
You'd have the meeting and there's no
Okay.
business, so we adjourn.
Okay.
That way you got a 1-sentence minutes.
Yes.
Yeah, if there was nothing. you knew
I'll also
there was
reserve the right
nothing.
for you to cancel
Just
if there's
call.
insufficient business.
You just call in and,
Point 3 people.
Yeah, you could do that too.
and, you know, have the meeting and adjourn it.
There's something else after we get there, as I see, I'd like to see a separate chairman for this committee than the chairman of the commissioners. What I'm saying, some other
Section
commissioner be
3.
the chairman. Yeah.
You gonna make the vice chairman?
Well, I don't care how it is, just.
So just the
board will
the
elect the
board of the
chairman.
land bank elects the
Chairman.
Yeah,
chairman.
but just,
Yeah.
yeah, just.
And then
Okay.
the chairman of the commission can decline to run.
Okay, yeah, that's,
Cool.
Yeah,
yeah,
you're set up so that you have complete freedom to have a different chair
yeah, that's what I,
in Article 4.
Yeah, it's not
That's,
automatic.
that's the way usually building commissions run too.
yeah.
How is the secretary treasurer then gonna work? Can we designate an outside
Yes.
person to handle that responsibility?
Yep.
I would think that you would want to designate the county treasurer probably as your treasurer,
Treasurer.
wouldn't you?
Yep. And in here, I've noted several places that county staff serve as her staff, so.
You didn't get her authority, did you?
No.
No, I figured she will give me
I was gonna
input, but
say,
she doesn't like
She's
it.
gonna tell you something.
So will they actually have to pass a land bank resolution every year to say what dates they're meeting?
They don't have to, I can change that also. If we're gonna set these, right now I put it so that, you know, the way this is done, when I've got a new one, sometimes they don't know just how active they'll get, or they get into a circumstance like if you have a failed development in the county and suddenly the land bank gets actively involved in trying to resurrect it or maintain it, like I've had in several cities, then they were meeting monthly, sometimes bi-monthly.
Yeah.
Well, when we did that the first meeting of each calendar year, you make that declaration of what the meetings are gonna be for the year. It just added that flexibility. I can change it to simply say, because you can always amend your bylaws. I mean, that's really easy to do too. You know, get rid of that. That was the reason for wanting to kind of discuss this, so I get what you want exactly in here for your first organizational meeting, and then you know that what you're passing, you've already preliminarily agreed to.
Yeah, there's nothing in here that says the chairman of Board of County Commissioners is actually the
No,
chair here.
no, that's right.
No, the board appoints. Yeah, I'm not.
It says the board appoints it, I just.
And it's annually selected, so you can rotate that around
Yeah,
to.
that's what I say, new
someone.
chair, if there's a chair of the other, they can pass that and give that to somebody else.
In section 3,
Yeah.
it says about preparing the notice of the meeting and the agenda of the matters to
The
be
mail,
come
yeah.
before, and then the mailing it 5 days ahead.
Yep, and that's not a necessity if we're using if the Board of Trustees, as that we've determined is going to be this body, some of those formalities I can just strike and change it to a different form of notice, and it doesn't require even your 5-day proceeding. That was just done as a
Okay,
suggestion.
and not specify mail or say mail/electronic,
Yep,
because we don't need.
Could we just say, shall prepare notice
And that's all.
and notify them? I
Yep.
mean, without saying how they're notified?
or even how long in that case, because you may have an instance where we have a meeting where you're not gonna have more than a day's notice on anything. So I can happily get rid of that, because I don't want it in there either.
So the only other thing that I could think of is, you know, if we specified it would be by email or whatever, is if something comes up and email is down,
Yeah.
could we notify by phone or, you know, for the members and still post our notice in whatever
You just say
manner?
electronic,
just-
does electronic media cover text?
Practically designed to provide adequate notice at the time.
Okay.
That's what I usually use.
All right. I knew there was an answer there.
And I know if some property just come up on the day before the meeting,
Yes.
that we wouldn't have to act on it at that meeting, that we could all observe that property, give us time to observe that property or take a look at it or whatever,
Set up a special meeting for a follow-up.
for a follow-up or something to that effect. It's just good to see it out there in the field.
It's just the bare minimum.
Yeah.
Also, at section 5, if you want any Board of Trustee member, right now I've got the chair may from time to time call for work session meetings. That's another one that often gets changed, where it's like any one of us would like to be able to pick up the phone, because I got a call from so-and-so who wants to give away this property, and they need to have an answer from us very quickly. So, you know, you can call the chair, and the chair will call it, but it can
Yeah.
also set it so that any one of you can make the request if you wish.
I think we'll leave it as a chair,
Okay?
in case we get, in the future, get some rebel one to cancel.
It's a good point.
Oh, look into the future.
Yeah.
And if that rebel don't like it, they can run for chair the next
Yeah,
year.
That's right, let them be chair. If they don't get elected chair, they're not.
I feel this group pretty much on the same page. We'll work the times.
Well, we don't get heated.
Got bunches of free election next time, you know?
Yeah.
It could change completely.
And if you happen to have someone who's in chair who serves in that, fits that nomenclature, you do have the ability in section 4 to call a special meeting by majority request of 3 of the 5 of you, so.
Yeah. Casey's a stubborn, or she's a stubborn chair.
Mhm.
I would learn. Okay.
I've had that happen too.
Only you can run about. Beat her.
Well, folks, I think this is a start, and I think it's a good
Let's
start.
extend this going.
See how it plays out over the next year or two.
I'll make those couple of changes, and then I think if we go ahead and call it up for the first meeting at 11:30 in December, notice that up, and you can approve it at that time, and then you're rolling.
Get that motion 1st of December, and then there's our first meeting, the 1st of January.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the December would be organizational,
Yep.
Yeah.
and then January, first Monday in January.
Because there may be that all of you at that point want to walk around, look in and say, okay, we have 3 or 4 properties we ought to approach someone about, or, we ought to discuss, or, those kinds of things. That's where it usually begins. There's usually some pent up demand on some things that if people now know that this is available to them, they can at least offer it up and you can review it. That is usually how we start getting stuff.
Provides a conduit to
Yeah.
get something done.
Also, if we've got properties that have been foreclosed and we're about to set that December 2nd date, that gives the month of December for, if a bank is gonna step in, they will be a good source for a land bank of saying, you have a land bank? Well, I've got a property
And
here
what's
that I'd like to get rid
What's
of.
the best way to communicate to the public that we're gonna have land?
I'd at least put it on our website somehow.
Well, I mean, other than the website, is there anywhere we should do that?
Right.
Well, a newsletter.
News article.
Our news article, it would be a great place to
That's
do
the
that.
only way of communicating to constituents.
That in and of itself is, it's an old article.
Yeah.
In
Well, I
our
would
local newspaper.
lots of feedback on that.
Nobody's gonna see.
Positive.
Facebook,
So, yeah, we'll do that.
Because we can do a how-to with what a land bank is and that whole thing. I prepared in that memo form, take it from there, and put it in the paper.
Any other questions and concerns, guys? I mean, this is some good talk about it, because it's a new road for us. I think it's gonna be a good road. Nothing else then for that, why, Brad, thank you for preparing it.
That's what I was gonna say.
Thanks, Brad.
It's not, well, I guess it is.
Yeah, we were pretty
got that.
mature on
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
We're good.
The second one, your tax sale policy, that I distributed the general content of that previously, so you can look at it in that form, and then converted it to a policy for approval. I have not, nor do I necessarily feel like I'm gonna have to, I'm gonna talk to the treasurer about it, but statutorily, we can set those, there's a minimum standard, and we don't go below that, how often we want to have those sales, and that policy will sufficiently deal with that. I'd initially thought I might have to do it as a resolution, and I'm not so sure it still isn't perhaps an okay idea, depending upon how much the treasurer wants in the way of additional support for when this is done. They aggregate, and we go from there, so.
Have you had a good discussion with Susan?
I honestly, I'll be candid, I have not. That's it.
I think
I went through this, I called a number of other counties, and they're all across the board. There's still an awful lot of them that still use that 5-year rotation. But the one comment that they all make is we hear about it regularly, that that's way too infrequent to do it. And once you get into a more, called one of the attorneys in Wichita, the same one that Ken was thinking of, they said once you get to a point where you have it on a more frequent basis, really does work better, because you don't build up such a list, and it's more thorough in terms of the review process, and get them moving.
Hey, and there was some concern of length of time to be on the tax sale, there is different time frames that it can be before it's on the tax sale.
Yes.
And do we have to declare a time frame?
I did it. It's in here as 2 years. And we talked about that briefly that day and decided we sure didn't want to go any more frequent than that. You want to give at least a year for people to kind of, they will need to get caught up. If you think you'd rather go 3, by all means, that's just a quick change for me. But that's one of the main things I would suggest we talk about today. And whether you feel good about 2 years or not, again, in talking to a number of other counties, 2 is kind of the minimum that you see. Ran into a few that went 3, but if you're talking to the people who do it, they will tell you 2 is great, because then you really keep it current.
I can see the first year being a struggle, but once you're in your
First year.
rotation, man, that's.
And also that in terms of the citizens and trying to be fair and equitable in this approach, you can say, you don't want to get that far behind. And once you do, now some do, some will live and die by that. I'm going to pay the 5th year and we're going to keep on being delinquent forever.
That's just innocent.
That gets a
Name in the
little,
paper is no big deal.
yeah, that once it's been done once, we're like, hey, I've been there before, it's not going to hurt me any.
So how do you get those people caught up in the beginning?
Well, again, that's a separate issue. That's the conversation again to discuss kind of with you and the treasurer, but how we go about doing
You
that.
get 3 years taxes all at once.
There's some programs that can be used in terms of forgiveness approach. Those aren't, beyond some very specific circumstances, favored, because basically, someone is just walking away from what others are paying. But, you can set up a program through the treasurer's office for how you are going to set them up, when we already do that. to
We've
some
got
extent.
this real
Yeah,
program.
yeah. So they just have to, know that death and taxes are 2 things that you're going to face, and you're going to have to deal with it and figure out how to keep up with it. And I understand it gets tough for people. Wrong circumstances, wrong time, and it hits them. But the longer we let it go on, the more bleeding there is for some people. They never get caught up.
When they get behind on the escrow, it means they're also behind on the mortgage.
That's right.
Tina, you were looking through it. Did you find anything that sticks out to you? Or concerns?
The only things that I have are, I think in the past, in here it talks about the sheriff publishing the notice of the sale and doing some of those other things, which I don't know if usually the tax attorney has been doing that.
I think they have. I didn't check with Susan beforehand. I was using
And I
it
didn't
based
know as
upon what
far
I've done
as
elsewhere.
What the statutory
Yeah.
requirements are.
As long as it is, the publication requirement has some flexibility as to who actually does it. It generally statutorily still falls to the sheriff to see that it was done, but it's easily delegated, so the attorney who handles these can do it. That's no problem at all. I just followed the statutory scheme and cited it 792801 going forward is what everything is still, we've used the same process for many years.
That's all good. I'm just saying that if the board adopts this policy, the sheriff probably ought to know about it before.
Yeah.
If they're adding things that aren't, we aren't doing right
Yeah.
now.
Is there a vehicle to post this, and where do we have to post that notice? The paper, internet?
What are we talking about? You mean the notice of tax sale?
Yeah.
That's published.
That's going
It's
to paper?
statutorily
Yeah.
required to be published.
Yep. And we're gonna talk about publication here pretty soon on the list of the things that we now have some freedom to do that we didn't before.
So what's your next step on the tax policy?
Someone saying, I like it, I move that we approve it. Or I've got changes to it, and here's the physical copy of it. You've all got it via email, but that way if you wanna have one in your file, I just
I
get Tina
didn't
as well.
see that email.
Yeah.
I just
It
looked
should.
again.
Oh, didn't you? She sent it this
All the
morning.
documents,
But there's a copy of it, and I'll see that it gets to you again via email.
He's got a printed copy coming your way.
Yeah, just so you've got the
So
physical
we can
as
go
well.
electronic too. I guess my first request would be you sit down and talk with Susan.
Okay, I'll do that this week yet.
I mean, is that agreeable?
Yeah.
Because obviously this is big.
Well, it was spearheaded.
Can they only,
Yeah.
can the delinquent
The
list only
dates,
be
start,
Everything.
all-
distributed electronically now? Years ago, the county treasurer used to send lists to all the banks, to everybody, post them on your bulletin board, And it was amazing. People would stand there and go through those things.
Oh, they still do, and it's in the paper.
Well, no, they don't.
I've got some that certainly do.
If they get the paper.
Okay, this is not.
I mean, it was a
Town squares.
And have 2 copies.
posted.
Did anyone else have any changes, or is the
Tina's
2
got a
years,
couple
is the 2
things she's
years
taking
too
note of.
soon? Randy,
Well,
you're kind of grimacing. there.
I'm just thinking of everybody just like, oh, we got 3 years, you know?
Oh.
So all of a sudden, oh, now we got 2 years, and that's what I was thinking. I just-
Texted me, Tina, should say record if
December.
we're gonna use them.
Well, I
But
think we
most of
should
those
just
people
say
are
whoever the
delinquent.
local publishing.
Well,
company.
because
Instead of
that's what I-
saying specific.
And that's what I did elsewhere in one other
There's a
place.
few individuals that might have trouble.
It's a,
But it
yeah.
didn't, she didn't pick
A
it
lot
up.
of them
She
just
was
the way
supposed to
they
check.
do it.
Oh, I mean, yeah,
But
yeah.
I know a farmer,
yeah,
he doesn't pay.
And this is what I did.
But
Over
if you're
other
back into a corner, you have the
That was supposed to be
availability of
both
the
places.
escrow program, you have options.
That's where I was getting at. How do we take and cut our escrow program then if we go to 2 years? How do we take our escrow program and work with this 2 years? Or,
I think that's what I need
Yeah,
to talk
we have
with
to
her
get caught
about.
up
as
and
a
into one
pragmatic.
escrow.
well, that's,
So you'd have to pay
I mean, that'd be defeating the purpose.
an extra.
that's what
extra
I'm
year.
worried about.
You gotta pay 2 years at a time,
Mhm.
to get caught up,
so is it,
double taxing.
I'm just thinking about timeline. So talking 2 years, it's due in December, you become delinquent in January? When does,
December 20.
when does the?
Yeah, it ultimately, well, again, I'm gonna see what she's using there. I know what it is legally, it's just after the due date, but when she declares them delinquent for purposes of this December 2nd
Right,
thing.
so is it actually 2 years and
6
9 months to get back around, or
When you had the
11
tax
months?
sale.
Because that's when they get gathered up to go to tax sale.
It's a practical matter. In most counties, it'll almost be 3 years by the time we've done it that way.
So actually, 2 years is not that harsh.
2 years is really 3 years.
Yeah. So
Yeah, by the time you do the administrative side of it. it's
because
really
they have
close.
up until publishing.
Yeah.
To pay it.
And anyone, I mean, there's gonna be a grandfathering in there regardless, so the ones that are
Right
ready.
up to the day of the sale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, once we do all the pay,
No,
once we
you-
pay the fees.
You can pay it the day of the sale.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
They can still walk in and do it.
Day of the sale.
Yeah.
And you've paid all
That's
that
right.
after
Some
you've
of those
done
got
all
dropped
that.
off.
Yeah, and
I
it's,
remember that.
County
if
pays
they
that.
actually audited that back for the last 20 years, it'd be hundreds of thousands of dollars.
So you're actually, and 2
Oh.
years is not harsh at all, because you're talking.
And in addition to
possibly-
that, you have a redemption period. Everybody needs to remember that someone can come back in if it hasn't been waived. You know, like on a mortgage setting, that the bank, I've done hundreds of those for a bank, where we contact that owner and say, do you intend to redeem? If you don't, we'd like to get that waiver now. Well, what do you give me for that? You know, and some banks will pay them a little, literally, pay something for that privilege, because they don't want to sit there and hold that thing and wait on them, depending on whether they paid more or less than a third of their mortgage. So, there's some subtleties to this, but the 2 years is really, yeah, I guess I shouldn't say, as a practical matter, it's not 2 years by the time you do something, you're closer to 3.
Because our current 3 years is 4 or 5,
Always.
Oh,
at
yeah.
least, somewhere more than that. But that's where, I guess where I'm
That's
coming
where I
to.
was being a little bit more reserved about being too harsh.
But once we get there, it's just gonna be a struggle to get there.
And then Tina has been very on top of this situation down at Peabody. And we have a C-Mart there right on the corner. But they've got the underground fuel
Yes.
stuff underneath of that, which can be what you said a while ago, we don't wanna take no ground with,
Well,
Environmental.
if there's environmental issues, you don't want to touch
and
them.
so, and Tina's been on top of that, and we haven't put it on the tax roll, because, I mean, they're way behind, unless, I haven't looked lately, I suppose they're thousands of dollars behind, but it's just sitting there doing nothing except for EPA's got their little drill rig on it, and they're taking
They have that
samples.
test well?
Test wells, yeah, they got test wells and everything, and stuff, but you know, you know what I'm saying, it's an ugly deal, but we don't know where exactly to go with it.
That's why you have a board that basically says, when you get 3 out of 5, that says, no, we ain't taking it.
Well, but yeah, Tina and I's been.
I just stirred something over there.
Yes, There's always kind of that physical.
been approached by somewhat new landowners across the street that they want it, you know, they wanted to do something with it.
Gotta take
They
the
just don't
tanks
want
with
it,
us.
they don't want the issue.
They have no idea what they're asking for.
Well, that's part of it, I think. They see that the drilling stuff over there, but you can't build on some of that. You can't do some things on that.
Or remove it, farm it.
So,
Are the tanks gone yet?
yes, tanks are
They've
gone.
been taken off?
Yes. Yeah. So what do you do with that? That's just an example of what I'm giving, because it's sitting right there facing Tina and I every day. We turn Main Street corner and go down Main Street.
Well, it's no different than if somebody came in and offered a building in Hillsborough, Marion, wherever on Main Street. How would we know if they hadn't been a filling station there in 1920?
No, you don't. You don't.
Because in the small towns, they were all up and down Main Street.
Yeah, yes.
No, most of them.
See, when they redid the sidewalks,
Yep.
they found
Tunnels,
contaminated.
yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Right down on First Street.
Mhm. Very true, very true.
Anything else on the tax policy?
Not that I have, I just, Tina may have, she gave me a couple of suggestions already, one of which I didn't realize it hadn't been ever changed in this, what I just gave you. It's at another place in there, but I'll, if there's anything else,
Again, I just said talk to, make sure.
and I'll go talk to
Susan's
her,
completely
because
on board. In
we need to
fact,
talk through
maybe
that process.
When we do our approval on it, if we have Susan come in, I think we'd be.
And she may have a couple of other suggestions yet. I kind of added some things to this one based upon conversations with counties that had a shorter one than we do, to kind of as the bullet point list, this is how it'll work, but.
I'd like to involve her in the process.
Yeah, I agree.
And let's get a timeline here,
Yep.
what you're
What do you think?
wanting to do
We
here.
want to be ready to December, first Monday in December.
I thought we moved that back.
We moved it back for this one. I was trying to push for that.
We'll need to act on it really, as far as I'm concerned, either, well, maybe next week if she has time to
Okay.
talk to me.
That's okay.
Because if you want to start using
She won't
December
be in here
2nd.
after the 1st. That's the day she takes her seat as judge.
So I'm talking.
Susan Burns.
Susan
Oh, the
Bird.
county
Bird.
treasurer, okay, I
Yeah.
thought he was gonna call
No, no, no,
Susan back
no, I'm
in
talking about
and
county
ask some
treasurer.
questions.
I should have been saying county treasurer.
Yeah.
And when
I
I
meant
brought up
treasurer.
December 2nd, because last time we had this discussion, there was something that was too expedited, it was too quick.
Well, it was for it to be, for us to
Started.
start a brand new
Started,
sale
yeah, started,
that
yes.
soon
Yeah,
would
yeah,
not
that's-
be
that's what it was.
possible.
Oh, yeah, what's gonna have to find it.
But we can try to hit all the
Who can
other
handle it.
targets.
Right, I mean, you can still have your policy in
Yeah.
place and then,
So that she's using that as a starting point.
Can't do anything until we get the policy.
But we don't
So
want
at
to
the
have.
point, at the point where we need to hire an attorney to handle that, do we have to come up with some type of a bid process?
Request for
it's
proposal.
already, I think that, I'm not sure if you were, online or just gone on that meeting or if you were here,
I
but
was
they.
both. Online,
But,
going.
the board basically said to develop an RFP, and there's some deadlines on that, which would be, I think it has to be developed by the middle of December. I wrote it all down.
Yeah,
And then
and
we have to have responses back by a certain point in January.
Right.
And then you'll make a decision, and so that whoever you choose for the tax attorney, I don't know exactly where they would start, if we could go back to, because the policy is basically saying that the list of properties is as of December 2.
Right.
So even if an attorney comes on board after that, like sometime in February,
Would have the
then
aggregate
they would
list for them
have
to
the
begin from.
the list if you have the policy in place. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But to answer your one question, Ken, is I personally would like to hear from anybody who wants to bid on it.
And that's the direct reason for the
Yeah.
request.
The request for proposal we talked about a few weeks ago.
Yep.
It was gonna be a little quick to do it the way we were originally talking about it, and Tina had
Mhm.
mentioned too, that really needed to have a little time to get that out,
Yeah.
give them enough time to get it back, which
Yeah.
put us into January.
Yeah, the one I talked to said he'd come up anytime.
Yeah, part of that RFP can be, if you want to interview them all, you can,
Yeah.
or you can decide some that you want to interview. You don't have to.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to leave it open to where we can make a decision either way from the
Okay.
board, yeah. Okay. Well, did anybody believe Brad could do this today? He's totally shocked me today. Thank you, Brad.
Wow.
He's got this.
That was a
shot.
close.
Wasn't that a shot?
Wow, that was
But he's got it done. He's right
that was
here.
a compliment sandwich.
Yes.
Wow.
Slam. Slam.
He's keeping us going here.
I sort of felt okay until a moment ago.
No, you're all right. We like to keep us pushing, keep pushing on us a little bit. We want it done, so that's,
I know you were all talking about that public forum policy the last time, and then I had to leave, and so I know you didn't actually adopt it.
Nope.
Do you wanna finalize your plans on that, so maybe you could go ahead and adopt that next time too, or?
So we can check that one off the list.
Yes,
Yeah.
that would be nice. So what's our holdup on the public forum policy?
Nothing.
We were already in commissioner comments when it wasn't on the agenda, so we didn't really want to take action.
It was on the agenda.
Well, yeah, it was, but it was.
I'm at the point, it's been late in your life.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
So-
what, so I'm saying, what's the commission's holdback on it?
I think, what was that on? Was that on Friday? When was that?
Monday. It was last Monday. It's been a week.
Last week's a blur.
Yeah.
I've seen you guys too
Temporary
much.
times, you know.
So I guess my question to the commission, were there any issues on the policy that you were uncomfortable with? Or had concerns
We're
with?
just asking for tell us what you want to talk about.
that was one little part of it, yeah. That, make sure that on the agenda that it's.
And it can't do a personnel, has to do.
I went into some detail in terms of just general decorum. All of that is in there as well. The one thing that isn't in there that I could certainly still add because of the way we're doing things is a section that if someone wishes to speak in this, I mean, it addresses that, but if, you know, we can post a little thing like we do on the bottom of the agenda as it is now, that if you want to do that, there's a little form that I have a template for that they can fill out electronically so that we know that they wish to speak. And then also, I know there was the discussion about, we call for public comment at the beginning and at the end. If you want to do both, or if you want to do just one, that kind of stuff, can still be a
And
topic
then I
of
think
conversation.
also, how long you want the time limits
Yeah.
to be in here. You know, we always call it public comments. Do you want to continue to call it that, or do you want to call it public forum? I mean, the title.
Because I was using a different, I think I mentioned that last time, I was calling it public forum, but we've always used public comment, and it's just a matter of semantics, whatever you'd like.
I'm okay with comment.
All day.
Okay, so,
As long
I'll
as we
change
don't
that.
infringe on the First Amendment
so
in any way, shape, or
Maybe,
form.
yeah, I think, I don't know that we are, even if you took
Well, we
public
don't,
comment.
we don't even have a question.
Even if you took public comment
Infringement.
out, you're not infringing, this is your meeting, it's not, they're not entitled to have it.
And again, the Supreme Court, like so many other things, have spoken to this, and they have 3 different categories of what public forum is, to some extent, when it's done in a public setting such as the courthouse. And we fall into a specific category, and I had all of that noted, so I can provide that to you if you'd like. It's for that reason, as to why we can do what we do and how. And all of that went into putting the policy together,
But it's
as to what we could ask for.
keeping
I
public
mean,
comment.
I agree with the decorum. I don't want to limit someone that needs 5 minutes to 2. Or whatever.
Well, there's a way of doing that, but we can put on the agenda.
But there's also that, yes, I absolutely agree with that. And it's trying to define that even in the policy, so that if you just have something you want to make them aware of, but it's not necessarily going to revert to an action item or something that goes through Tina and gets onto an agenda, you don't want to discourage that communication, because now they can also call any one of you, pick up the phone or whatever at any time, but if they want to come in and speak to all of you en banc, that public comment section serves a very useful purpose.
You can then make the determination, you know what, this is gonna need to be put on an agenda and come back, because we're gonna have to look at it in more detail and possibly take formal action on it. Others, it's just someone who says, you know, I want you to be aware that I'm unhappy about. Okay, you know, but again, in the course of doing that, knowing who they are, where they're from, those basics are certainly within your purview to know.
Yep.
And their demeanor before you is something that you can certainly address. And then the rest of it, it kind of does define, this is what it's for. And we do want to hear from you, and that's why we were elected. But it needs to be done in a way that's civil, appropriate, and doesn't put us in a bind like on personnel matters or other kinds of areas where we just can't have you do that, and you may unknowingly stumble us into a problem. So.
Can't give me a quick determination up there. You say public comments up top. You want to, you know, like if somebody starts speaking there, what you just want to hear what they say after they give their name and address or anything. Is that part of what you was talking about?
Well, I think they need to state what they're gonna speak about.
Yeah, just
Okay.
I don't want
What's the point of speaking?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and
I
this,
just, you know, it's hard for me to, I'm not an attorney, so I can't define infringement. I can listen to something and say, yeah, that might be infringement. But we don't wanna step into that, we don't wanna step into that zone, I guarantee it, not in today's day and age.
Tina?
okay, sorry, I'm just looking at the document that you were provided. So in section C, this is the policy, and it says that they shall sign up in advance of the meeting and shall provide their name and address for the purpose of putting both in the minutes. And so when they sign up, then they have to state basically
their
what they're
purpose is,
talking
right.
about. So it's not like they just would come in, that this is a change, because right
Yeah.
now, you're just letting them come in and talk about anything. And on this, you're saying they have to do it ahead of time.
So that's,
That's to be
so
on the
to me,
agenda.
is that borderline?
Yeah, well,
It's enforced, I mean, it's appropriate, you can
Yeah.
do that.
I don't want
because-
anything that's even borderline.
Yeah.
Because again, it's fairly spontaneous. They can walk up here and sign in as long as they do so before the actual agenda item is called. And, you know, at the point where we're gonna call that, then the chair says, have we got anyone who signed up? Bring it over, kind of very much like just asking, hey, is there anyone online that wishes to speak? The online is addressed by having that little template. They get on there, it can be 30 seconds before the meeting starts or right before the public comment section is called. And we can double check it, and someone else has done the exact same thing that they would do physically here. And that works very well. I use it a lot in other public governmental settings. And again, it gives us at least an idea in 20 words or less, 10 words or less, sometimes it's just 3, whatever it takes, that, okay, they want to talk about roads, or they want to discuss this or that.
And I know we've been asking for a name and address, but I haven't been putting the address in the minutes, so this makes a change to that.
It
So,
does.
And just want to make sure it's,
put the address in the minutes then?
yeah.
I just think that's a prequel. I don't think we should be publishing that.
And we
I
can,
mean, we're not out to get anybody, we're just out to verify.
I'm just thinking
what I
out
wanted to
loud,
Yeah.
if we make them publish their address, could they come back and say, because of you, it caused this issue at my residence?
Yeah, see,
I mean, you wouldn't think so, but I tell you, the world we live in right now
Yeah.
is,
But also, here's the other side of that, is an address is not it's not protected.
right.
It's not something that, like under an open records request, if somebody requested, even if we don't put their address in the minutes, if they came back and requested to see all those forms, I can't withhold their address.
That's right.
Unless there's some kind of a court, something filed to say I
Yes.
can't.
And then we need to address, make sure they live in Marion County too.
Yeah, there's a compelling need that
We
is
don't have to
allowable
print it, but we need.
under the law for us to know that, was this somebody that just happened to drive through town today and thought, that'd be kind of fun to go in there and raise some activity.
Yeah.
But if you don't wanna put the address in the minutes,
You
just
can,
as a
you
matter
can
of.
control that.
right.
Then
Yeah.
we need to make sure that's changed in this policy.
Yeah.
before we
Okay, I would
adopt it.
say, yes, we don't want the address.
In the minutes?
My person was not,
Okay.
we wanted preliminary for verification, we wanna know where they're from. Because to me, it makes a big difference if they're a Marion County resident or not.
Yeah.
Because I've already seen that multiple times, someone from out of town comes in and just eats up time.
Well, yeah, or they just rant and rave on something.
Yeah,
that
but
they
you don't also start to think, we have a lot of residents in Marion County that their address is not Marion County.
Okay, that's,
You got 2 lakes full of them.
yeah, that's fine too.
They have a lake address.
Well, they have a lake address, but their physical address, permanent physical address.
And once again,
We can.
They can clarify that.
yeah, and there are those people who, you know, live in another county that own
Yeah.
property in Marion County.
And they state that.
And they
They-
they get to vote on something now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just learned that the other day.
Yeah. the
There's a
drainage
drainage
You've
district.
also got,
They can vote.
you've also got people too that live at the edge and may have Walton, you know, at the edge of
Newton
Harvey County.
address.
Yeah,
Newton
Newton address.
address, yeah.
But yeah, but they're, because they're delivered mail by,
Sure.
by that way too.
But they can
Got some-
clarify
got
they
some-
are.
Yeah.
But we had a couple of the tax sale, they disappeared.
Yeah.
Newton addresses.
I think that issue can all be addressed by whatever the form that you have
Yep.
them use to
Yes.
fill out to
Yep.
sign up to speak, and that could be on there. So the next thing that I,
Go ahead.
is, comments from the public may be invited and permitted at each, should we say regular county commission meeting? Or, because
Yeah.
right now, we're not doing it at
On
special
specials.
meetings. Do you
Correct.
wanna continue that practice?
Yes.
So we need to add regular,
I'll
and then
take
do
care
you
of that.
want to keep it to where you're doing it at the beginning and the end?
That was your
Is
other
that the
question.
Do
same order?
I'm
you
gonna say yes, in case there's an issue that comes up during the meeting. You know, say public comes in to, we're gonna talk about the public forum policy. They come in to listen, they made comments at the beginning, they heard something during the meeting, they wanna make a comment at the end. Again, this is not a 10-minute, 15-minute, this is a 5-minute comment.
And that, you brought up the next
5
point.
minutes.
5 minutes?
5 minutes for comment, Linda.
You can extend it, you know, if you wish
Sure.
to, you wanna be careful that you do it equitably, but, you know, if you wanna set it at 3 or 5 or whatever,
3?
that,
3's fine.
3 is pretty standard everywhere I've been.
Yeah, I'll go 3. If it's longer than 3, they can be an agenda item.
Well, it's the board discretion. I mean, the board can always be like, all right, you hit your 3.
yes.
Or the board could be like, oh, they're
It
still
does-
talking.
Well, we got questions or?
It does say in here, unless otherwise ordered, no person shall speak for more than blank minutes on any one topic unless granted additional time.
Yeah.
So by the chairman or other commissioner presiding.
Because there are instances all the time where, depending upon what the topic is, they can just barely get warmed up in 3 minutes. And
Yeah.
you just have to decide if that's what you want to do or not.
But then you at least got the chance.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it says they can address the commission for how many minutes on each
Topic.
each on more than one topic. So like if they want to talk about 5 things, are you gonna give them 3 minutes for each thing, or how much time do they get? And that's in here too.
I had one not too long ago that came in and signed up 7 times, same name, 7 topics. And they wanted 3 minutes on each. And again, it's different topics, and they were really good about kind of just melding right on through and sat there for about a half hour, you know, talking to them. So,
So are you want to leave that at 3 for both of those? or-
3.
and again, it gets back to Ken's point. I don't want to limit someone. They may have legitimate
Yeah,
three
I
or
can
4
see.
things they want to talk about.
Yeah, but
That's
couple-
fine, and I don't want to take that away from
Yeah, so
someone.
it ought to be per item.
Yeah,
Okay.
3 minutes per individual.
X come in and talked 3.5 minutes off a subject that maybe 2 members wanted to listen to more, but the other 3 wanted to get them out of there, cut them off. So,
Well,
it's a
I'm
motion.
turning that over to you.
Yeah, Someone comes, Mr. Chair, I move to give them more time. Oh, no. Yeah, and it's gonna be a majority vote.
okay,
As to whether you do it or not, it's a protocol issue.
okay, I just asking, because.
No, it can't come up.
Question, I
Yeah.
agree.
Per item.
So you want 3 minutes per item?
Okay.
It doesn't matter how many items.
And no limit on the items. Okay.
I think,
You wanna limit the items?
well, I was just thinking 3 minutes per individual, because then they could list their items, and be like, well, if you got all these things, why don't you set up for an agenda item, you know, next week or something, so we can further discuss these things, rather than just rambling on for 30 minutes.
they'd have to be pretty organized.
Well, yeah,
This
I
one
guess
guy-
I'll leave it alone, just.
I've always took the stance, and somebody called me and had an issue. I said, I've told them, get it on the agenda, rather than come and comment.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's an issue, it needs to be.
Yeah, because even if they come in right before and sign up for something, we just have forewarning what the topic is, so to deal with the immediate issue. It still doesn't give staff time, or you, the time to review, study, go out and take a look at whatever it is that if you need to do a physical inspection.
Right.
So you're gonna put it on a later agenda item anyway, and I think that's appropriate to say it just that way. They should understand, and we do put in there that, please understand that there's not going to be action taken typically on something that you bring here at this point, nor do you even have to comment. You just say
Okay.
thank you for your input.
At that time, should the chair of the commission, if it gets past 3 to 4 minutes, should the chair ask the commission whether they want to extend, go on past with this issue?
Only if they have more to talk about. If they're done,
Okay.
they're done.
Okay.
Yeah, you're the timekeeper, so
You
you'll
can
cut it
set
off
the-
if
you
they
can
set
set the
like additional
timer.
time.
Okay.
That's chairman's.
Okay.
In here, it talks about disruptions, and it says if they can be ejected. If they disrupt a meeting, they may be subject to a
I did
fine
put that
of
in.
not less than $5 nor more than $100 for each offense. So you wanna
And-
leave that in there.
And that is legally appropriate for you to do, but I don't know that I'm not going to say that I recommend that. I'm just gonna tell you, you have that option, and I put it in there on purpose so that you can discuss it, but Tina brought it up.
And it says maybe, it doesn't say they will.
Yeah, it's not shall.
So I'm just wondering if you want to leave that in there.
Because it's quasi judicial to the extent that you convene a meeting and it
I
is your
would be in
meeting.
favor of leaving it.
Okay. And then the other thing, of course, this down here should be county.
Yeah.
So, you talked about, and you made a motion about placing something on the agenda, having to have a specific topic and a description. If it's a member of the public placing something on,
Yeah.
does that need to be in this policy too?
Should.
I mean, I think it would be really easy to add it because
Yeah.
it's all related.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. But yeah, I didn't remember anything yet.
I'll take care of it.
If you have somebody calls you and tells you the idea, topic that they are, and you don't feel if you feel it's sufficient to call the chair of this committee to verify it, then I feel that we need to have some of that in there that must, if you don't not feel comfortable that it's following our guidelines, to call the chair and see if they will.
Okay.
And you actually, that brings up a separate topic, and I haven't talked to Tina about that at all. For her benefit, because she's done this long enough that she, you kind of get benefit of her skill and expertise,
Right.
but what goes on an agenda and what doesn't, and how you filter that. We don't really have a good thorough coverage on that as a policy matter either. So it might be something to consider as a separate.
I've always felt like that an agenda item would be a infrastructure type question, that kind of thing. Because most of the time it seems like it's always been roads.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tends to be planning and zoning and roads.
Well, and we may start getting more questions
will.
when the wind farm.
We're already getting those. You guys just haven't had to deal with it yet.
Okay,
So,
go ahead, you just go ahead and deal with
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
That's cute.
Well, it's just, like I've always said, man, the first one come in and gone, bang, over with, done, and we've had nothing but time after time after time for the second one. I'm hoping everything goes good. Is there any further comments here on this?
And how would you like to proceed? Do you want me to have this one so it's on for action and adoption next week?
Yeah.
So that we keep
Yeah.
moving it along?
Yep.
Let's keep moving it.
Yep, yep.
Okay, so that's the
I bet
public.
Brad gets 2 A's in a
Public
row.
comment.
I'm gonna bet Brad gets 2 A's in a row. He's got it under control.
Okay.
Was there the tax sale one you're
Mhm.
gonna?
Two emojis.
We'll try to
There
do
you go.
that
Yeah,
next time as
yeah,
well.
that's what it seems like you get anymore, isn't it? Yeah. 2 movies.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
Yeah.
The iPhones don't get them though, so they think.
Tina, do you have any further business?
I don't.
Committee Commission, do you have any further business that we need before we go into public comments? Okay. Public comments then?
No public.
Nobody's here. No, nothing online. Commission comments? Hearing none.
Um,
Oh, go ahead.
I think I brought this up, but I'm not in favor of having aerial electric to the new heated dock.
Oh,
What? Having the aerial electric, having the lines strung overhead to the new heated dock. It was originally bid by some to run underneath the walkway to the building, so it wasn't. And there's perfectly safe manners and ways of doing that, so.
shall we talk?
If you recommend that, I'll go with it.
Well, it's a commission comment, so I don't know.
They didn't do, but this weekend,
I don't know.
okay.
I don't know.
Maybe I better talk to Cody and see how it was bid. And I will talk to him, see how it was bid, see what we're doing.
What?
I remember, the only reason I remember is because it was a curiosity thing. That overhead and that thing moves, you got to stretch those lines.
Well, I know that certain numbers were proposed with it underneath, and
Yeah.
other numbers were proposed with
Yeah.
it overhead, and it wasn't a fair bid, so I'm just.
Tina, I'd like to have that written down, that the chair will talk to Cody Nelson and give a report back for next meeting.
Okay.
Or if we have to call a special meeting on it, I will.
I think they're in the process of doing it. I mean,
Well,
they got the windows up and
yeah. But what the question is, if it was bid that way, why aren't we following?
Yeah.
That's the question.
I mean, it should be done today or tomorrow. Talk to Green. I mean,
Well, even if it went overhead, there should have been a change order brought to us prior to the work being done
So,
for a deduct.
tell Isaac to stop them.
I'm going out there
Okay.
shortly. Okay.
Rescue funds. When do we start trying to research where we want to go?
I'd say we need to be further than that, our research, we need to be getting into action.
What are we spending on?
But first priority for me is employees, I think Randy alluded to that earlier.
Yeah.
If we can access those funds, we need to do it, we need to do it.
Oh, but I'm gonna require my clerk to sort of do some investigating, or somebody do some investigating to see what, maybe it comes from, our auditor, that what kind of other counties have done, whether it's X amount of money for.
There's a
They're all
process.
over the board.
Are they?
I mean, they're every direction.
Right. But
I don't think looking at other counties is gonna help us
Okay,
much.
okay.
But
Okay, just look at our.
that ball needs to get rolling, needs to get rolling now.
We just need to decide what's best for Marion County and move forward that way.
Okay.
Not worry about what everybody else is doing.
Right.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I think-
I've looked at some of the other counties, you get in Saline County, and they're dumping money into economic development.
Well, there was a county up somewhere in the northeast that did a whole new golf course because they supplemented what they had in their budget, and then
I mean,
I wanna specifically look at what we can do for rewards to employees and stuff with.
yeah, that's first thing.
But with that, there's other things.
Yes, there's other things, that's the first one.
First, and then follow up with the ambulance treatment, health department.
I agree.
And
I agree, but the
see-
first one
See how we
is first.
can.
What can we do?
We heard yesterday from a very smart guy that's running for state treasurer. He's an economist. He worked for the Kansas, Kansas Public Policy
Institute.
which makes recommendations to the treasurer. And he has been, this is one of the things he's been working on with counties. And I said, right off your head, what would you recommend a county to do? And he said, well, this is a one-time thing. You're never gonna get it again. He said, if you need physical, long-term facilities, whatever that is. That's what he's recommending. Now, I know we need it for other things too, but he said, sure, one-time shot.
Yeah. Because you can work all your incidentals, everything you
Yeah.
rotate
Now-
anyway.
Now, I
in your
realize
budget.
there's probably gonna be some more folks come in and ask for some money. That doesn't mean we don't help them if it's, for the good of the county.
It was one thing to come up with.
I mean, we've been talking about
Countywide
facilities
water-
now ever
Yeah.
since I've been on the board.
Countywide
Now
water
that we built the shelter.
district type thing.
No shelter.
Where
Wholesale
bring-
water district.
we bring all the water districts together.
Yeah, it's a wholesale water district that should establish. That would be another,
I don't know if that's, I heard it, sounds like it could be a good idea, but I don't know if the path to get there would be messier than all get out.
Yeah, I don't,
It
I wouldn't,
ended
I
up-
wouldn't be, I
it's
wouldn't be,
already been
I wouldn't be in
tried one
favor of that. I think our
And it
water
got
districts are
messy.
real, well run.
Okay.
It'll never happen.
Well, yeah, I know that.
Like it's
The
all the
disturbance.
schools.
Yeah. Beach
But,
it against the.
gosh, it would be,
Roxbury just
I
had
think it would be saving.
everybody quit.
Oh, yeah, not splitting up resources.
Okay, to get to that, to the Tina still, whatever, that we put it on the agenda, and you might just sort of ask the auditor what's happening, but if it's, you know, something to that effect, if we move ahead with it for the employees.
I guess I would ask you for that to be an agenda item next week.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
And probably each week after that.
And Tina, and then I asked some of the commissioners, I think one in particular, I know that I asked, you know, where does it stop at, full-time employees, where does it start, part-time employees, or just any, with that recommendation, anybody that helped through COVID, or just with that, you know, what?
We need to talk about it.
Yes, we need to put that on the agenda too, and sort of answer that question. Maybe there's a different reward for a part-time employee that worked through there versus a full-time employee, two different rewards or something, two different rates. I don't know. With nothing else being said, I'd make a motion to adjourn. Second by Jonah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. I gotta go to Brad Daniels' office.